Welcome to this session of the Intuitive Medicine Summit, where we'll explore ways to participate in our own healing with my guest, Stephen Washington. Our topic today is addiction, recovery, and intuition, listening to gut wisdom and moving in the right direction. Stephen Washington is a former dancer in Disney's The Lion King on Broadway, and currently a Qigong and Pilates instructor who has taught thousands of people around the world how to create more energy, peace, and balance in their life through movement. And he's here with us today. Stephen, I am so glad to see you. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. What a wonderful opportunity to spend this hour with you.
Absolutely. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation because it's so very important. And but let's start at the foundation. You were a movement person. And I know that movement practices can be very helpful in connecting with our intuition, but how do you suppose we lose that connection in the first place?
Mm. Well, I think how we first of all we're all born with intuition, right? We're all born with that innate gut knowing, and that knowing sometimes is like little whispers that we hear in our mind, or sometimes it's a feeling that we can feel in our gut. So we all have that, and we begin to lose that, particularly as it relates to addiction. We tend to lose that growing up in dysfunctional families, right? In dysfunctional families where, say, the child is observing and feeling and sensing things happening around them, and everyone around that person, that child, tells them otherwise. So you start to not trust what you see, you start to not trust what you hear, you start to not trust what you feel. And that can be very confusing, very, very confusing. And so that's like the first, I think, disconnection. And sometimes that can develop into certain behaviors or certain ways of trying to get out of that feeling of confusion and that dissonance that one feels in a family structure. So it's not uncommon for young people who are caught up in that situation to start to use food as a way to make things feel better, overachievement, and then so on and so forth. And then it can develop at a later time into addiction of substances. And so you start to, again, get further and further away from your intuition, that gut knowing. And then once you start to engage in addictive behaviors, that pulls you even further away from yourself. I think that's how we tend to lose that connection that's deep within us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting point because yeah, we are all when we're little, we have our antennas are always up. But yeah, if people are telling you what your gut is telling you is wrong, that really can mess with your mind. And let's fast forward a bit to somebody who's older. I know that some certain substances, when you get high, you feel like you're intuitive. You feel like you're connected with the universe and like you're getting all of this, psychic information. But it's not always true intuition, is it?
No, I don't think it's not all. I don't think it's always true intuition. I feel as though true intuition, um, there's so much within us. We are born with so much, and that we don't really need all those other things in order to help us to tap into something that we're already born with. I think it can be very seductive to think that is going to increase our intuition and make us even more insightful. But I tend to believe that we already have what we need within us, for sure. Otherwise, you start to depend upon those things in order to connect to deeper parts of yourselves, and we already have that within us. We already have it within us.
Right, right. And especially a non-altered intuition, I believe is more true, that it's not going to possibly be skewed by any sort of filters that that a substance may have put in place that you don't recognize.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about. I know that you really work with people in recovery, so let's talk about that. What is your? You have a multi-pronged approach to recovery. Is that right?
I do. And I just think that looking at my own experience, I began my recovery journey through 12-step programs. And that's just one way to go about moving into the direction of recovery. But there are other things. There's many other groups that you can join, whether they're secular groups or smart recovery, or there's a groups that encourage not abstinence but moderation. There's so many things so many ways or avenues that you can use to begin medications as well. But I think it doesn't matter so much what you choose. It's just a matter that you choose something and that you follow it, and that you work with it and commit yourself to it, no matter where you are led, because there isn't one size fits all. I think. And then once you can arrest the addictive behavior through some of those different approaches, you add meditation, mindfulness, which helps you to get more in touch with your inner self, and so that it makes you more available to do the inner work that's required. And then you will be able to again tap into your intuition, tap into that divine wisdom that will guide you in terms of what's the next right action to take.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that next right action could be as simple as, I'm hungry, I need to listen to that, I should eat something.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're not taking care of ourselves, it affects how we think. It affects our ability to be present in the moment and really listen to that inner wisdom. So when I say a multi-pronged approach, I just mean that there are just many different resources out there. It's a matter of choice for you to find out what is right for you. And then you add working with a counselor or a therapist. I think that's another wonderful way to move through your recovery journey. It's helped me tremendously over my 18 years of recovery. And again, once you start to do that work, you're able to do some of the deeper stuff and connect to the truth of who you are, and move forward, really listening to that.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And you also need to learn to trust your intuition again, as we were saying earlier. When you're young, if that trust is destroyed, you don't believe your own intuition. How do you think people can regain that trust in what their gut is telling them?
Absolutely. So, we adding to that, we lose our trust in our own intuition too, because if we're struggling with an addiction, no matter what it is, our best thinking got us there. And so that also it's hard to take that and trust yourself to be able to make the right choices and move in the right direction. But again, once you tap into all those resources that I talked about, you can start to connect to your intuition, to find that inner guidance as to what's the next right action for you to take. So back to the question that you had, what are some of the ways that we can what things that we can do to connect to our intuition? That was your question, correct?
Well, to learn to trust it
To
again.
learn to trust it again. Well, it takes, it's one step at a time. I think we start with small actions, I think, in order to begin to trust our intuition. I think it's simple things like, as you're moving through your day, you might feel inspired to do something out of your normal routine. I don't know about you, but when you're going from, say, the grocery store to your home, you might go a certain way each and every time, right? Maybe today your intuition will guide you to go maybe in another direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then what will you discover by going in that different direction, going along that different route? Starting to listen to when you're out and about, And perhaps when you're at the grocery store and there's someone standing next to you, and your intuition tells you to engage with that person. So often when we're in situations like that, we barely make eye contact with people. But what if you just said hello, or made a simple statement or gesture or question, and what will happen from that? So I think those are small little ways that we can start to trust our intuition. And also back to paying attention to your body. Our body tells us things all the time in terms of how we're feeling. If you're hungry, so often when we're um, struggling with an addiction, we don't pay attention to our bodies. We disassociate, we disconnect. So listening to the body, am I hungry? Am I feeling hungry? Am I hungry? Oh, I'm hungry. I should eat something. Am I tired? Because if we're tired, it affects the way that we think. It affects the way that we perceive the world. Pay attention to that. Maybe take a nap. Am I feeling pain in my body? So often when we're in the throes of an addiction, we're not paying attention to the physical body if we're feeling pain. Oftentimes, I know for me, when I was in the throes of my addiction to alcohol and drugs, I would feel pain and I would drink it away, or I would snort it away, or I would smoke it away. Lots of different things I can do to distract myself from what's happening in my body. So it's start paying attention to those things, those signals, and that's a way to start from where you are.
Right, right. Yeah, that brings up a question too, because if your intuition is telling you something that you don't want to hear, it really can be easy to, really push it down with the substance of your choice, whatever it is, whether it's food or booze or drugs, whatever it is. If your intuition is telling you, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing for you to do, and you're like, shut up, you want to do this, pursue your substance anyway. How would you address that specific battle? Because it is a battle.
It is a battle. And I also think no one recovers alone.
Mhm.
We need people. People need people. We need support. So if you have people around you that you trust, who have your best interest at heart and in mind, can you take some of these things that you are perceiving, as your intuition that's telling you to do things that aren't in your best interest? If you bring that to someone else who cares about you, to bounce that off of them, get a little feedback. That's a way to help guide yourself in terms of, am I going in the right direction?
Mhm.
Am I moving towards freedom,
Mhm.
or am I moving, backwards into this prison that I'm in, which is my addiction?
Right, right. Well, we've talked a little bit about how to reconnect with your intuition. If you've got any additional helpful hints, that would be wonderful. But I also wonder, how do we avoid the traps that we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think other things to help a person connect to their intuition more is to find quiet. Can we find moments of quiet in the day? There's so many things in life that distract us from who we are, why we're here, what we're feeling, many opportunities to check out. So just connecting to yourself, having some quiet time, whether that's practicing meditation, mindfulness, and for people who struggle with meditation, I remember hearing in meetings when I first got sober, I remember someone saying, if you're having trouble meditating, how about when you're starting off in the morning and you're going to make your coffee, we boil water. While the water is boiling, just sit and breathe and just wait. Something as simple as that. When I heard that, Lisa, it was revolutionary for me. So making time for that is really important. And then I mentioned as well, just listening to your body, listening to the cues that your body gives you. And then also something that one can do is to also just how can I say this? Engage in things that will help flourish or ignite your intuition. So that can be mindful movement, engaging in mindful movement practices, whether that's what we're going to do later on, a little bit of qigong, some yoga, or even just simply walking in nature. Something that will allow you to be creative, whether that is gardening or cooking or drawing or journaling. Those types of things can help one to begin to tap into their intuition and reconnect to it on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And you asked
Right.
me something about the traps,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We all fall into these traps. It's
Oh yeah.
real easy to backslide. How do you avoid that?
Well, I think one of the ways to be aware of some of the traps is to remember that sometimes our will and our ego get in the way. Our will and our ego get in the way, and we will oftentimes be so set on or focused on this particular thing that we want, whether it's a substance or whether it's just a certain outcome in life, um, and just to remember that sometimes no matter how hard we try, and also we live in an environment and a culture that is all about achievement, all about getting what we want. We set these goals out and we just pull up our bootstraps and we do it. Sometimes no matter how hard we try, we're still not always going to get what we want.
Mhm.
So how do we make peace with that? How do we um, how do we remember that sometimes not getting what we want is what's best for us? Sometimes how do we come back to that place of less being more?
Mhm.
So being just aware of, how willful am I being in this moment, and as much as you can, um, be less willful about it, and begin to trust, begin to trust the universe
Mhm.
that's led you to this
Right.
moment of healing.
Right. Right. Well, I know that another thing that God knows I've done this myself. When you're trying to, I don't want to use strong language like quit an addiction because you use harsh language. Sometimes that makes it even harder to do. But
Mhm.
sometimes we look at our the thing that we're trying not to do as a reward. Oh, I've had a hard day, and if food is your thing, you know what? I'm going to have some ice cream because I deserve it. Or I'm going to have a cigarette. I'm just going to have the one. Or I'm just going to have the one drink because it's a reward for myself. I deserve it. I need it. How can we tap into our intuition to help that? I guess, what is the wording that you use to beat a craving?
Mm. Wow. So that makes me think of triggers. Like we know there are things that might trigger us to want to use, and you know, oftentimes it's a person or place or a thing that will trigger that. Um, the first thing that comes to mind is playing the tape forward. So in other times in your life when you've had that craving for that slice of cake, if food is your thing, um, have you often stopped with that one slice of cake? Or have you had two or three? Or have you eaten the whole pie? When you say, "Oh, I'm just gonna have one drink. I can have one drink and stop," that might be true, but that might not be true. You can look at the past and look for evidence around that. So playing the tape through is a wonderful tool that one could use when you're feeling that impulse to act out. Playing it through, because oftentimes our addiction leads us to more suffering. If we can play the tape through to from this moment to what that inevitable suffering will be, listen to your gut. Does that make you feel better about it? Or does that make you feel worse about it? And usually when we have those impulses, if we wait a few moments, if we breathe, if we distract ourselves in some way, that impulse will leave. But the thing is, oftentimes as addicts, we don't give ourselves that chance. We feel it, we respond. We feel it, we react, and before we know it, we have the drink in hand, we're eating the pie, we are smoking a pack of cigarettes, we're doing the drugs, we're having the sex, we're at the casino, whatever it is for you. But just having that moment of pause, playing the tape through, and listening to yourself in terms of, are you moving towards freedom, or are you moving more towards the prison that we've created for ourselves?
Mhm. Right, right. Well, speaking of movement, that's a beautiful segue. Movement has become your life. So you mentioned earlier that you would share a movement practice. I think this would be an excellent time to do that.
I would love to share movement practice with everyone. So, we can do it simply just sitting in the chair. When I teach mindful movement, I always start with the breath, because breath is life. Breath and connecting to the center of the body is where we hold our power. And Qigong in particular, we try to mirror the movements and the energy of nature. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to breathe, and we're going to do an exercise called wave breathing. So you'll take one hand and place it on your lower belly, and then you'll place your other hand on your chest. And you'll just take a deep breath in through your nose. And as you inhale, just feel your abdomen expand. And then your rib cage. And then lastly, your chest. And then as you exhale out through your nose, you'll soften your chest, your ribs, and then your belly. And again, take a deep breath in, breathing into your belly, ribs, chest. And as you exhale, soften your chest, your ribs, and your belly. Let's do that one more time together. Be a witness to your breath. Allow it to move through your body like an ocean wave. Beautiful. Now, let's just do a simple exercise to cleanse and clear the body of old energy. So we will do an exercise called shaking. So I just want you to just take your arms and your hands, palms facing down, and just shake out your hands. And as you shake out your hands, just try to relax your shoulders, sit as tall as you can. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. Good. Deep breath in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. Now allow your palms to face up and do the same thing. This is a great exercise to do if you hold a lot of tension in your arms and your hands, like many of us do. We're always on our phones, always on our computers. Take another breath with me. And then exhale out and slow it down. And just place your hands on your lap for a moment and just close your eyes. And just feel the energy circulating through your arms and your hands. That tingling, that buzzing sensation. Just be a witness to it. Again, listening to your body. There's so much wisdom within the body. And there's a strong connection between the gut wisdom that we have and also the wisdom that we hold in our minds, in our consciousness. Send the energy that's buzzing through your arms and hands and just send it through your entire body With the power of your mind, allow the energy to travel up the arms, down the torso, all the way down through the legs to the feet. And now send that energy up the body, all the way up through the legs, through the pelvis, through the spine, all the way to the brain. Good. And now open your eyes, and we'll just finish up with one final exercise. This exercise is called gathering the breath. Again, breath is life. We get so much energy from the air that we breathe, right? Air is the most accessible form of chi, life force energy that there is. This exercise just requires us to lift the arms up in front of us, shoulder height, shoulder width. And then you're going to just bend your elbows and draw your hands towards your head, and then slowly float your arms down as you exhale. So inhale as you lift your arms up, and exhale as you float your arms down. So you can just envision that you're gathering all the positive energy that you need today in this moment to help you bring a level of peace and calm to your body, your mind, and your spirit, and allowing you to slow down enough to listen. Because following our intuition is all about listening before we act, listening for that right guidance. Let's just do two more together. Last one. Good. I hope you all feel as wonderful as I do right now. And it was a pleasure to share that with you.
Thank you for that. I do appreciate your sharing that, especially since what you're doing there, it's very invigorating and very embodying. And I think one of the reasons that people reach for their addictive substances because of the sensory experience that they have. It feels good to get your fix. So
Yes,
by helping your body to feel good without anything artificial, I think is very helpful. Is that what you're going for here?
absolutely. These practices are a wonderful way to help self-regulate and self-soothe. Often we reach for those things like you just mentioned to help us to change how we feel, to somehow regulate how we feel. We make a judgment about how we're feeling, and we want to do something to change it. Um, and this is a wonderful, gentle, nourishing practice to do to help you change how you feel
Hmm. Hmm.
and to get
Yeah.
where you think you want to go, but in a different way.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. It was beautifully delivered. Thank you for that. Now, I want to make sure before we go any further in our conversation that I mention your website, StephenWashingtonExperience.com. I love that web address. What will people find if they visit you there?
Oh, thank you. They will find all access to all of my work. I have a online community that I serve every week called Core Qigong, where I blend Pilates and Qigong together. Um, we do a little Pilates, we do a little Qigong, I do a little Q&A. It's a weekly class that I teach. So there's access to more information about that community. You'll also have access to some of my writings. I'm also a writer as well. I'm actually preparing my first book, which will be released in 2021 through New World Library, called Release, Recover, and Renew: Body Wisdom, Insights, and Soul Care for Addiction. And you'll also have access to some of my podcast recordings as well. And if you sign up at my website and join my newsletter, you'll also get a free gift a free meditation practice that's called the 5 and 5. How we can just take 5 minutes out of the day to help us set ourselves up for a more peaceful, balanced, and energizing day.
Well, that's wonderful. And congratulations on your new book. That's very exciting. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Good for
I'm
you.
excited about it as
Awesome.
well.
Yeah. So we're just about out of time, not quite. Is there anything that's still on your mind that I forgot to ask you about or that's coming to mind that you want to make sure that we talk about?
Lisa, let me think. Ah, no, my intuition tells me no. I think that we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot, and I hope that this conversation was very useful and helpful to many.
Yeah, we really did cover a lot in a short period of time. I feel there was just a lot of really potent juice in this conversation. Thank you, Stephen. This has been just a really delightful conversation. So nice spending some time with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to spend time with you as well, Lisa.
All right. Once again, I've been talking with Stephen Washington. That's Stephen with a V if you're looking for the StephenWashingtonExperience.com. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this conversation in the Intuitive Medicine Summit.